Welcome back, Tribe. I think it's interesting that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you wouldn't imagine a video like this getting made. But here we are. Why I'm worried about the rise of liberal young women from a woman. Let's see.
Why I'm worried about the rise of liberal young women. A recent survey by the American Enterprise Institute reveals that liberalism is on the rise among women within my generation, Gen Z. Now, 46% of white Gen Z women identify as liberal, compared to only 28% of white Gen Z men. This gender gap has been widening for a while. Over the past 2 decades, the political profiles of young men and women remained pretty stable, but in recent years, women have shifted significantly to the left. In the US, 44% of young women identified as liberal in 2021, compared to 25% of young men. That's up from 30% of women and 27% of men a decade ago. The biggest gender gap in 24 years of polling. It's a similar story in the UK. This isn't just girls becoming left-wing. What this is, increasingly, is girls and young women being drawn to this newer offshoot of liberalism, wokeness, social justice culture, whatever we want to call it, and
propaganda
lurching to the left around the time this ideology took hold. By which I mean an ideology obsessed with identity, convinced that everything is socially constructed, supportive of censorship, and wedded to the core belief of liberalism that we must all be liberated from cultural norms and traditions. Why is this happening? One explanation is that women...
When you've been brought up in privilege your entire life, equality starts to feel like oppression.
Now far outnumber men at universities, where left-leaning and liberal academics dominate. We're also more likely to study the social sciences and humanities, where professors lean further left than STEM subjects. Young men, meanwhile, are abandoning higher education in droves. Personality differences may also play a part. Our current social justice culture seems to me to appeal to traits more common among women than men. Cancel culture campaigns, for example, can be seen as indirect forms of aggression, a strategy favoured by females. Safetyism also appears to be a typically female trait, with women tending to be...
Look, man, if you look at society as a whole, we've taken on feminine qualities as a whole. They're the largest spender now. They're the largest voter bloc now. They hold all the power now. It is what it is. Now, if you dissect society and see the feminine traits overlaid on it, you'll see the whole consensus building, censorship on platforms, towing the line and going with the narrative at all costs, regardless of the facts being true. Feelings over facts. Optics matter more than results. Have you noticed that the trend in society today is essentially a caricature of how a woman treats herself individually, how she behaves individually within a group? That's the way we govern now. It's superimposed female nature on government. And that is why they say masculine republics give way to feminine democracies, which give way to tyranny. It is what it is. It's a natural cycle, baby. Keep it coming. Our times are ahead.
More risk-averse than men. Plus, political correctness is best predicted by trait agreeableness, which women consistently score higher in. We're also much more conformist. Another major part of this is social media. Take those natural tendencies of girls and women and add to them algorithms designed to track our interests and deliver targeted content to our devices. Some feeds evolve into endless reels of social justice activism and progressive politics, becoming more extreme to boost engagement. You may have started out being a bit worried about climate change, but by the time the algorithm is done with you, that minor concern is a deep-seated fear of an imminent apocalypse. Perhaps you started with sympathy for oppressed groups, and before you know it, you're making TikTok videos agreeing with Osama bin Laden. Of course, this can happen with right-wing content too. Feeds can just as easily become a deluge of red pill posts that gradually become more deranged. But as psychologist Jean Twenge notes in her book Generations, it's liberal teen girls who are by far the most likely to say they spend 5 or more hours a day on social media. But whatever is drawing young women to liberalism, the question now is how is this affecting them? And what does the political divide mean for relationships between the sexes? This growing political divergence is already affecting dating preferences. In another recent survey in America, some of Gen Z girls' biggest relationship red flags included their partner listening to Joe Rogan, identifying as a MAGA Republican, saying all lives matter, and believing there are 2 genders. Meanwhile, Gen Z men's top dating deal breakers included their partner identifying as a communist and saying all lives matter. What's more, people are increasingly unwilling to date across the political divide. 86% of Americans believe that it has become more difficult to date someone who supports the opposing party. and most would refuse to date someone with different views. This is especially true for women, which would explain why we are seeing the rise of political signalling on dating apps like "Don't message me if you're a Tory" and "No Republicans." Plus, premium features on platforms like Bumble and Hinge, where you can filter out people based on their beliefs. Polarization has even reached a point where we've got a growing market for political dating apps like Lefty, the dating app for progressives, or The Right Stuff, view profiles without the pronouns. Modern dating is already difficult enough. Now add to it a generation diverging so far in worldviews and values that sometimes it feels as if we aren't even inhabiting the same reality. As a result, we struggle to agree on
Who wins from the disconnect? Who benefits the most from people not being able to come together? Who gains the most power from day-to-day average people placing themselves in these rigid boxes so they'll never reach across the aisle and come to a common understanding? Think about this. This goes both ways. They're being brainwashed, propagandized, and manipulated on social media for a reason. The same reason they're doing it to young men. There's a reason they want you to be feminine. There's a reason they want you to be eating soy. There's a reason they want you to be weak, complicit in everything that's happening, starved for attention, isolated in your room under neon lights, gaming all fucking day, jacking off all day. There's a reason.
Basic concepts like gender, let alone cohere around core values enough to sustain something meaningful. What does this mean for our future? Marriage and birth rates are already falling fast. In the UK, more than half of women aged 34 or under are now unmarried, and the majority are now childless by their 30th birthday.
Wow, look at that. Depopulation.
In the US too, 45% of women are predicted to be childless and unmarried by 2030.
Overwhelmingly affects the middle and lower classes because rich people still get married. They're still having kids because they can afford to have kids. This is not even factoring the economics of the deal, which is also not an accident.
Political polarization will likely make this worse. Researchers warn that as finding a politically compatible partner becomes more difficult, it will push those who do marry to cross ideological lines, which is worrying since studies show that politically aligned couples experience greater relationship satisfaction and lower divorce rates. Stable marriages not only contribute to societal cohesion and are crucial for children's well-being, but are a significant predictor of happiness for both men and women. In fact, research reveals falling marriage rates to be a major reason for declining national happiness in America. What's more, the modern liberal narrative portrays marriage and families as threats to personal freedom. It casts any form of commitment or responsibility as a constraint. And I can tell you, young women are deeply immersed in this ideology. From Instagram feminists insisting we completely ignore men, to classic fairy tales being rewritten without them, to TikToks putting us off marriage, to a therapeutic culture convincing us to cut out anyone in the way of our self-actualization, the message is the same. Dump him, stay single, don't catch feelings. Just look at the outrage when the Washington Post recently raised concerns about political polarization and marriage rates. Accusations included the publication being in the pocket of the far right for daring to promote marriage, an institution that should not be saved and is antiquated bullshit.
Wow, oh my God, two people coming together with vows for life to create a family, a legacy, combining their already two existing families. Oh, what shall we ever do? The evil. I can't believe it. Quick, turns on TV, Super Bowl halftime, Black National Anthem. Oh, people in like devil outfits dancing all over the place. Oh my God, this dude is strip teasing and dancing all over a Satan caricature. Oh my God, that chick's nipples are basically out in a damn nude outfit doing the raunchiest dance ever on TV. Wow. I know the Golden Globe Awards. I know the Emmys. Oh, look at the performances. More demonic bullshit. Oh my God, more hand signals. Wow, look at that. I know, that stuff is kid-friendly. Ooh, let me pour some hormone blockers in your drink today. What do you identify today, Regina? Boy, oh boy. This ideology, the Marxism, the postmodernism, whatever it's evolving into, has only taken root because the family structure has been attacked and destroyed. Fathers are missing in the home at record numbers because of the laws, because of societal pressure and societal programming, social engineering. I don't need a man. Men ain't ish. The government's gonna take care of me. All this dumb shit. Why do we incentivize single motherhood? Why don't we incentivize families coming together? I know, we have a birth weight problem. Cool. 25% off taxes every year for your first kid. Guess what? Another 25% for the second one. Oh, if you have 5 or 6 kids, you're tax-free for life. Or, hey, we will help you get your first house. We'll build a house for you. Guess what we're going to do? If you got 4 kids, for each one, 25% off your original loan. So you have a kid after getting a house and being married, 25% off the principal. Have another kid, another 25% off the principal. By the time you get to 4 kids in the family, in the house you had built, you're debt-free and you have a home to raise a family in. These common sense things would solve a lot of the population problem they like to throw in our face. People would start getting married again. They have a reason. Economic incentives, because that's the hardest part about having kids today. You can't afford this shit. You can't hardly afford to pay for yourself. You got to have a roommate and you're a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman just to live in a rinky-dink place so you could have a decent commute to work. We're not trying to go to work 2 hours one way. It's ridiculous. With crushing debt as Americans, because you graduate college with crushing debt that's not dischargeable, that's one way to solve this. No, but we have stupid systems. Once you get married in this country, if you even have the balls to, one of the partners is incentivized to break the contract, aka women. They could walk away. There's no fault divorces. You could walk in on the mailman plowing your woman in your own house, and then she could just say, well, I wasn't happy, and can walk away with half your shit, take your house and your kids by default because she's the mother. It's not rocket science how to fix these social issues. It's just not profitable to. We can make hella money on mental disease skyrocketing. We can make hella money on keeping people down mentally, socioeconomically, keeping them divided from one another. What's the best way you can move up in the world? Combining a man and a woman under one household with kids so that they both work hard towards a better life, incentivized by their own children. They have skin in the game to make sure the community is safe, properly run, to leave a good future in front of their children, which in turn makes them want to do the same for the community at large, like looking after your kids, being good neighbors, keeping an eye on your children in the neighborhood. That social net is gone. The threads are being pulled apart. Instead, we chemically castrate people today. We tell them they can identify as attack helicopters today. We put them in front of social media, which is the strongest form of propaganda and brainwashing you could ever ask for as a government agency. I mean, wow, China really knocked it out of the park with TikTok. You literally put a person in front of TikTok, you have taken over their mind. And there's nothing they can do about it. I had to stop using it. I used to just use it to farm for videos to do. Now I just react to other channels that do all the farming for me. I can't. It's impossible. Even when you know it's all propaganda, when you know the AI is designed to jack your brain's dopamine, you can't fight it. It's so good at what it does, even when you know to look for it. So I stopped completely. But the average person that's using the app as a consumer, not producing anything for it, just constantly consuming, like TikTok, swipe up, swipe up, swipe up, swipe. Oh man, I shit. Swipe up. Yeah, sis, go, boss babe. Swipe up. Girl power. Swipe up. I don't need him. Swipe up. Let me cheat on him. Swipe up. 20 bodies in 1 month. Swipe. It's non-stop, bro. They're downloading this in their head, and it's game over. What used to be, or what could have been at least, a sensible, humble, grounded person who had aspirations, both biological, of course, because we have needs as human beings, but for the greater society as a whole and, social constructs of your family and extended family, to want one of your own, to have a man in your life, to have a woman in your life, to come together and build something wonderful, children, to go to work with a smile on your face as a man because, hey, I'm busting my ass for something that actually means something, that matters, that's important to me, my wife, my children. Or a woman turning the house into a home, being the homemaker, stretching her man's dollar as much as she can, learning to cook at home so she can make proper meals for the whole family to nourish and control all the vitamins and minerals everybody gets to eat. Make sure she grows strong, healthy children. Make sure her man is strong and healthy so he could go out there and do his best. And it's this like symbiotic relationship that's no longer there in the Western world today. Instead, we've replaced our system that made us some of the greatest societies, the greatest civilizations on earth with what? Hookup culture, depravity, hedonism to extreme amounts. It probably only rivaled other times where empires have collapsed, like the aristocracy in Rome before the fall. Just pure depravity everywhere. Weimar Republic, Germany, pure depravity everywhere. Just excess and waste and a degrading social structure. We just repeat this over and over again. It's like we can't see that. Hey, man, tradition doesn't mean that you're constricted and bounded into a box that you're not allowed to escape from. Tradition simply means that the path you take in life is just well lit. There's lights along the way to help guide you to new frontiers. That's all tradition is. It's a way forward. There's guardrails in place to make sure you don't fall off the cliff and die. Yet the road is still untraveled. That's all it is, man. It's equipping you for the journey ahead. It's not holding you back from undertaking a journey. And that is why I'll always be for traditions and traditionalism. But it's been hijacked by the liberal media to make it seem like it's something evil, something medieval, something takes away from your ability as an individual and holds you back from finding your place in the world. And it's complete opposite.
Perhaps these attitudes partly explain why only 37% of liberals in the US are married, compared to 56% of conservatives, and why the marriage gap between liberals and conservatives is widest among young women. But it isn't just the gender divide that should worry us. It's also how this liberal ideology makes girls feel. Gen Z girls are in a major mental health crisis, and as Jonathan Haidt has found, it is young liberal women who are suffering the most. In fact, 56% of liberal white women aged 18 to 29 have been diagnosed with a mental health condition. One explanation for this is something called locus of control. Liberals tend to have a more external locus of control, meaning they feel as if their lives are governed by external forces like patriarchy or white supremacy, a perspective linked with poorer mental health outcomes. Conservatives, however, tend to think they have more control over their destinies. As Gen Z women have become more progressive and politically active, Haidt observes that they have shifted psychologically. Not only have they adopted a more external locus of control, as have all of Gen Z, but embrace an ideology that encourages cognitive distortions like catastrophizing and emotional reasoning. This has then caused them to become more anxious and depressed, which makes sense to me. Feminism today spins self-pity as empowerment. Progressives talk more about powerlessness than personal responsibility. It's not your fault, it's the patriarchy. It's not your diet or lack of exercise, it's society. Remember, it's literally impossible to be a woman. Ironically, I find few things more disempowering than the modern feminist insistence that I am a badass and a girl boss, while also treating me like a fragile child, reminding me to ruminate about microaggressions and stupid jokes and how much men hate me. No wonder girls feel out of control. No wonder they feel more negatively about their future than boys, or that over half in the US feel persistently hopeless. What do we do about this? Well, the right could continue making fun of stupid woke women online. The left could celebrate the gender divide as progress. Or we could take this seriously and focus on solutions. What we desperately need is to offer young women more compelling counter-narratives. We must create spaces outside of academia and algorithms where they can explore diverse ideas. Zoomers today are simply having far fewer experiences. We are less likely to have gone on a date, to have had a job, to even spend time outside than previous generations. Teenage girls are averaging 8 hours of screen time a day. So, their understanding of the world is increasingly gleaned from educational institutions, mainstream media.
Bro, that's the equivalent of a dude who has a problem with gaming. Can you imagine? Like, we all have friends. I used to be that guy too. Literally would game 8 hours a day. That was me. That you have a problem if you game that much. I'm not talking about the dudes that do it on the spare time, or the dudes that do it, to blow off some steam and their life is together. You got paid off house, paid off cars, a good career. You're not part of who we're talking about. We're talking about the people that have problems, because you could use social media and not have problems. If you use it for checking up on friends and family only, you post a picture here and there to keep everybody else updated, and then you don't really use it for anything else. That's it. You don't go on the endless timeline scroll for 8 hours, bro. 8 hours a day. Can you imagine gaming for 8 hours a day? Most of us here, the dudes listening, have probably done it at least one time. And it's probably at least at a game release you've been waiting for that was super hyped up. You probably played a full, more than 8 hours, all day and night with the boys for like the first 24 hours nonstop. It happens to the guys. That's the same problem that they have. Every single day, they spend upwards of 8 hours on social media. You don't think it negatively affects you? The same way 8 hours every single day gaming would negatively affect a man? And then you don't want to say like, oh yeah, they've done it to themselves. They're propagandized, bro. They're being manipulated. They're being pacified the same way men are in the manner of women. That's the only difference. I don't know. To me, it's not that strange when you hear Agenda 2030 and the WEF's goal of you will own nothing and you will be happy. And we have too many people. The population of the planet can decrease by the billions. You know, when you hear shit like that and they're openly discussing it at these forums and meetings in Davos, and it's just like, wow, dude, is it an accident that society is so badly mismanaged? I don't know. Am I a conspiracy theorist? I don't know, dude. We got people sleepwalking in the presidency. We got people that literally can't speak or read a freaking teleprompter. We're doing great day in the country. How? This is leadership? There's nobody looking around asking questions like, bro, what is going on around here? Why is the border so porous? Why are there millions of people flooding in illegally? Why are we sending billions of dollars overseas for wars we may have had a hand in starting? I don't know. Isn't it strange that trust in institutions is at an all-time low and getting lower, that mismanagement of three-letter agencies and state institutions is at an all-time high, that more and more legislation is being passed to restrict your rights instead of empowering your rights as an individual in most countries? I don't know. This is why I like to go hiking and just F off from society, because a lot of these problems really start making you think and view the world in a negative light. And then you reach the inevitable conclusion of what it's going to take to fix this. And that's a path nobody wants to go down. And yet we seem like we're marching there inevitably.
Pop culture and their phones, where they hear the same narratives over and over. Parents must also actively oppose ideologies that instill in girls these disempowering beliefs, that valorize victimhood, that vilify men, that present meaningful commitment as a patriarchal trap, that take detached individualism and dress it up as liberation. No more indulging this. Our priority now has to be protecting adolescent girls who are increasingly anxious, depressed, and lonely from a demoralizing and atomizing ideology to which they are uniquely vulnerable. Lastly then, get girls off of social media. If you are a parent, delay your daughter's entry until at least 16. These platforms not only expose her to extreme ideologies, but rip her away from real life, real relationships, real resilience, and learning about the world from what she experiences, rather than what a pre-packaged ideology presents her with. Parents must work together on this and shut it off. Our social fabric is fraying. Girls and young women are falling apart. If we continue to immerse them in this disempowering and divisive liberal ideology, and the divergence between young men and women deepens, we can expect all of this to worsen. That's why I'm worried, not because girls are becoming left-wing, but because girls suffer when we sell them self-pity wrapped up as empowerment. They suffer when we bombard them with a bleak, fatalistic view of the world and of themselves. And both sexes will suffer if we pull any further apart. We have to bridge the divide.
Fortunately, that is the left-wing view by default.
Because if we don't, the future for women and for men will not be a good one. And many of us will be facing it anxious and alone.
Yeah, well, I'm curious about the comments here. Please stop calling them liberal and use more appropriate terms like leftist, socialist, Marxist. Woke is not liberal. In many cases, it is the antithesis of liberalism. I feel sorry for Gen Z. Their life compared to mine growing up in the 80s is awful. Women are more conformist. Thank you for saying it. I mean, psychology's been knowing this. We aren't inhabiting the same reality. That's because we're not. We're in the middle of a social divergence that can be best described as two separate realities, fighting for control of a single corporal space. And then, this is, of course, aimed at women, this video, liberal women specifically. But I understand that there's guys watching this and being like, yeah, boo-hoo, what about men? I understand. Like this guy says, my only disagreement is our priority has always been protecting girls and women. In my lifetime, protecting men and boys has never, ever, ever been a thing. And that is true. Watching this, I was thinking, why don't men make videos about topics like this? But I think that's what the red pill spawned from. This is men helping men navigate the world and the truth of it. I think that this, in the forums that get shut down all the time and space manosphere and all this stuff that has cropped up that's very male-centric, is this version for men. That's what it is. That's why it's cropped up, because the disconnect. And there's other men that behave as mentors or that use their experiences in life to bridge the disconnect and show men the reality of the world through experience and living a full life. We learn from guys way older than us. I learned from dudes way older than me. Guys that are probably not around anymore if I had to call back and check on. And then there's a set of dudes learning from me. And then those guys will be coming up, taking what little bit of nuggets I've learned here and there, applying it in their lives, getting a form of success. And then the next generation, and it'll just keep happening. It's just with social media now, this has exploded. Men are starting to find out the truth from other men, finally. You know, the veil has been lifted. And now we're seeing like, oh shit, society actually works this way. Oh, everything I've been told about women is wrong. The government isn't actually my friend. Trust in institutions probably shouldn't have much of it. You were raised to be a good little boy on this conveyor belt of go to school, get a degree, meet girl, get married, have a little career job, a kid or two, get out on your pension, spend 5 years free, retired, die. And people are starting to wake up to the fact that that's not a reality they want to live in. It's not even a reality that's real anymore for them and available, because most of our jobs have been shipped overseas. The few special jobs we have, we import with the H-1B visas. I believe it's the H-1B visa. Someone check me on that. Whatever the visa is to import people into high-skilled jobs. And the corporations tell us, oh, well, you know, we can't find these workers in America. There's no American that wants to do this. That's bullshit. It's just those people from overseas are cheaper. It's always been about profit and the bottom line. We sold out our own. We sold out our nation. We sold out our culture. We sold everything out under the guise of capitalism for profit. Nothing is sacred anymore in this country except the almighty dollar. Family has fallen to it. The church has fallen to it. Social contracts, trust-based societies, everything has fallen to the power of the dollar. And that's the only thing that matters. Ask yourself when you see things on TV, when you see things unfolding socially, all the programming, the engineering, follow the money. Who benefits? Who makes a ton of money off this? Oh, new weight loss drug, Ozempic. Wow. All of a sudden, Congress passes a law. Fatness is genetic. Boom, Ozempic passes. Wow, billions of dollars. Literally, the most profitable corporation in Europe, I think it passed Louis Vuitton, is now a drug manufacturer that sells a fat loss drug, and only to Americans, by the way. I think they're not even allowed to sell it as a fat loss drug in Europe. Only in America. You could be a fat pig and eat all the shitty food, stuffed with all the shittiest ingredients that the FDA has deemed as okay and healthy for you. Because now we got a pill on the market that's going to solve your problem by turning your stomach into a rotting putrefaction waste dump that doesn't even process the food. It sits in your stomach. It just rots. Problem solved. You see that? Obesity, baby. Billions of dollars is now a genetic problem. This is crazy, dude. Nothing is as it seems. And that's the world today. Oop. See you guys on the next one.